Presented by Listen Headlines, latest world news from trusted sources.
February 16, 5:44 America, New York, shark attack kills man in city's first such death in almost 60 years. Sydney, Australia hadn't had a fatal shark attack since 1963. It uses warning apps, nets and drones to try to prevent them. February 16, 5:42 America, New York, Pelosi in Jerusalem, U.S. support for Israel as ironclad. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the relationship between the United States and Israel is ironclad. February 16, 5:40 America, New York, Paislee Shultis, U.S. girl missing since 2019 found alive in secret room. Police have charged 3 people over Paislee Shultis' disappearance in Saugerties, New York State. February 16, 5:40 America, New York, Germany aims to lift most COVID restrictions by spring. The first changes could go into effect as soon as Germany's states pass the rules. Police officers checking vaccination certificates at a restaurant in Hanover, Germany in November. February 16, 5:38 America, New York, woman beats HIV using novel treatment. The American became the 4th person ever to be cured of the virus. A New York woman who had undergone a risky treatment for HIV appears to have been cured of the disease. February 16, 5:29 America, New York, buildings collapse as country hit by major earthquake. Guatemala has experienced a major tremor and 2 aftershocks. A major earthquake of 6.2 magnitude on the Richter scale hit Guatemala overnight on Wednesday. February 16, 5:26 America, New York, last freshwater dolphin in northeastern Cambodia dies. Wildlife officials say the last surviving freshwater Irrawaddy dolphin on a stretch of the Mekong River in northeastern Cambodia has died, apparently after getting tangled in a fishing net. February 16, 5:25 America, New York, New Zealand COVID protesters inspired by Canadian truckers blockade Parliament, authorities. Hundreds of people in New Zealand are continuing to protest its government's vaccine mandate, despite the government's attempt to dissuade the protesters. February 16, 5:16 America, New York, Canada eyeing no-go zones in Ottawa to quell Freedom Convoy protests, official says. Protests blockading U.S.-Canada border crossings were down to their last holdouts, with supply routes almost fully clear. February 16, 5:09 America, New York, for 2 years Hong Kong held off the pandemic. Then everything fell apart. A reliance on a zero-COVID strategy meant that Hong Kong's hospitals were unprepared when the virus finally burst into the country. February 16, 5:08 America, New York, NZ protests swell, defying police ultimatum. Anti-vaccine demonstrators have ignored a warning from the authorities to leave voluntarily. Hundreds of protesters defied a police ultimatum to leave the area around Wellington's Beehive Parliament on Wednesday, with the crowd continuing to swell. February 16, 5:06 America, New York, Somalia says Al-Shabaab attack kills 5 outside capital. Authorities in Somalia say an attack by the Al-Shabaab extremist group has killed 5 people and wounded 16 on the outskirts of the capital of Mogadishu. February 16, 5 o'clock America, New York, at Olympics, Nathan Chen and other American Chinese asked to pick a side. American athletes of Chinese descent at the Games are targets of patriotic and even nationalistic sentiment from both countries, sometimes adoring, sometimes hostile. Eileen Gu celebrated her silver medal win for China in the freeski slopestyle competition on Tuesday. February 16, 4:39 America, New York, swimmer dies in shark attack in Sydney, suffered catastrophic injuries. Remains belonging to a swimmer were located Wednesday off a beach in Sydney, Australia, after a brutal shark attack that resulted in catastrophic injuries. February 16, 4:35 America, New York, 3 more bodies found in sinking of boat off Newfoundland. Canadian rescuers have located 3 more bodies from a Spanish fishing vessel that sank in rough seas off Newfoundland, taking the death toll to 10. February 16, 4:24 America, New York, EU top court says bloc can withhold certain payments from states that violate rule of law. The governments of Hungary and Poland have been accused of overseeing a gradual decline of democratic standards in recent years. Both nations are major beneficiaries of EU. February 16. 4:18 America New York, South African court rejects effort to delay corruption trial. A South African court has dismissed former President Jacob Zuma's attempt to remove the prosecutor from his upcoming corruption trial. CNN World News. February 16. 4:01 America New York, blockades at Canadian border crossings are coming to an end, but protests persist in Ottawa. While protesters objecting to COVID-19 safety measures continue to idle trucks and camp out in downtown Ottawa, other blockades situated at the Canadian-US border this week are standing down. CNN World News. February 16. 3:56 America New York, Indian actor and activist Deep Sidhu, who supported the farmers' protests, dies. Indian actor and activist Deep Sidhu, who backed the country's year-long farmers' movement, died in a car crash Tuesday, according to police officials. He was 37. February 16. 3:44 America New York, Pakistani police arrest journalist on unspecified charges. Police have arrested a prominent Pakistani journalist and government critic at his home on unspecified charges, his colleagues and local media said. February 16. 3:38 America New York, top European court rules EU can freeze aid to Poland and Hungary. In a landmark decision, the European Court of Justice approved the bloc's decision to cut billions in aid on the grounds that members are eroding rule of law checks and balances. Prime Minister Viktor Orban of Hungary during an annual State of the Nation speech in Budapest last week. February 16. 3:17 America New York, Sydney shark attack. Swimmer dies after catastrophic injuries, on beach. The swimmer was in the water at Buchan Point, Malabar, off a Sydney beach, as police confirmed a first fatal shark attack in the area since 1963. February 16. 3:16 America New York, Guatemala earthquake. Buildings reduced to rubble as massive 6-magnitude tremor hits. The European Mediterranean Seismological Center said the 6.2 earthquake struck on Wednesday morning in Guatemala, at a depth of 96 kilometers, around 40 kilometers southwest of Mazatenango. February 16. 3:12 America New York, pet parrots declared a threat to endemic birds. A biologist has called for a nationwide ban on breeding and selling man's favorite talking birds in New Zealand.